Okay, welcome everybody. Today is the 2nd of February 2025, and we are here to listen to Dr. Anurag Bhargava, the dentist and a great photographer from Connecticut, USA, currently in Bhopal. Right? He is a photographer par excellence. Rest of us are kids in front of him. So, without further ado, over to you, Anurag.
Thank you so much, Kamlesh Chacha. So we all know we have a lovely event coming up, 2nd, 3rd of March and 4th. So without any ado, I'll start with the presentation. Uh, these are the topics which we are going to cover today. I know we're going to start with the basic and then we're going to build it up. Uh, the topics are how to hold a smartphone, photographing buildings and architecture, photographing sceneries. How do we get day and night clicks on an iPhone, candid and group photography? And then the last topic is specific to iPhones. It is watermark shortcuts, how you can play with watermarks on your iPhone. Um, so first thing is, how do you hold an iPhone? I know it's a very simple thing, but let's begin with talking about how not to hold an iPhone or any kind of a phone while taking a picture. So this is a short video. Let me play this. So what happens is when you are having your arms more extended or away from your body, um, the support is not that great. So if you can see on this, the first girl, she's trying to take a picture, but the arms are more extended. So your arms are not more close to your body. So your photographs generally becomes more blurry or they shake a lot. So that's why what you need to do is if you're taking a picture either from a phone or from a DSLR camera, they generally say that move your arms more close to your body and then try to um, move the center of gravity more close to your body, basically, so that you are mainly stabilizing the camera and then you can take your pictures. So the key points on how to hold a phone or a DSLR camera or a point and shoot camera is two hands are better than one. So try to take pictures with supporting both the hands. Tuck your elbows in. So as you can see in the photographs, so that you have more support and more balance of that. Now your hands can be more lean towards your stomach. So then it provides some extra support. Tripod and phone mounts, you can use them, but we will discuss about that if we have that space. Because when you're taking a picture, your this presentation is more mainly about how to just pull out your phone and take a picture with that. Um, Now, regarding buildings and scenery, we have the. I was looking at the photographs. The venue is amazing. We have some great shots on that venue. We will get some great shots of architecture, night. So the place is very beautiful. So, say for example, these kind of pictures. Now, when you're looking at these kind of pictures, most of the phones which we use these days, they have something called a grid lines. Now, when you get into the grid lines, and like I can, if somebody is trying to figure out how many grid lines, so there is something called a rule of third. You can get more grid lines on a phone, or you can have less. I think the basic rule of thirds, if you enable on your phone, then it will help you um, framing or composing your shots. This is what a grid line looks like. This is called a rule of third or a basic 3 by 3 grid lines. Most of the phone has it. So you see the red lines and you see the blue dots. So ideally, when you're shooting, say for an architecture like this, what you like to have is you want to have a symmetry in the structure because that looks more aesthetically pleasing. So if you have the right and the left, or you have a more aesthetic dimension to your background, that looks really good. One more thing which is more important on a scenic or a architecture photograph or something like these kind of photographs, you need to have like it is advisable to have a foreground, a midground, and a background. So this is the picture. So a foreground is something which is like a part of, or the lower third of your frame would be covered by something like, in this case, it can be the floor, the fountain, then the midground would be the middle structure, and the background is your sky or something. So you have a depth in your scenic photographs or the architecture which we are trying to capture. Um, this is the same thing. You have a wide open. Sometimes what happens is I have done this mistake a lot of time. I'm more focused on the structure, so I have completely neglected the background, and so that's why I didn't get the sky. But this, in my opinion, this photograph shows how vast or how big, how beautiful the mountains are, how well your skies are. We can talk more about the editing of a picture. So when you get a picture like this, I think the main important thing when you're shooting any photograph is if your photograph should be in focus. These days, anything other than focus mostly can be fixed in post processing and even on an iPhone. So, say for example, if you have a background which is in this picture, the background is or the sky is more washed out. We can go over that on an iPhone these days, the Lightroom or anything can fix just the background, and you don't have to worry about the sky. So even if you get a shot like this, don't worry about the washed out sky, or that you can. What does a washed out sky means is that you don't have that much of details on the sky, but you have a very good detail on the midground and the back and the foreground. So save that image. We can work on the sky, and then it is very easy to edit those these days. So the key points is try to capture symmetry when you're trying to capture any kind of architecture in Jaipur. Focus on the elements and design. The place is beautiful. It has a lot of high ceilings. It has a lot of architecture and designs on the ceilings. So when you see the shapes, try to focus on that. There is something called a leading line. Now I'll go back on a slide. So leading lines is if you see that there are lines on this the big green grass, that you have the boundaries and there are lines. So if those lines are leading you somewhere, or if they are directing you somewhere, the leading lines make it a more aesthetic kind of an image. So leading lines, geometrical shapes, or focus on the design and try to capture the symmetry on the kind of architecture or any kind of a building photography. Now, talking about the night photography. Now, in night photography, there are two major things. I'll show you. So again, if anybody has an Android, I can go over on an Android or a Google phone how to set that up. This slide will show you how to set it up on an iPhone. If you do have a tripod, great. If you do have an iWatch, great. If you don't have that, it can be done without that as well. And the main goal is to shoot the pictures without as much of a gear, basics. So in the iPhone, when you open the iPhone and you have it, if you're trying to photograph at night, you will see you open up the camera, you have these two there's a lightning sign and the yellow circle, and then there's another sign right next to that lightning sign with a cross on it or a slash on it. The lightning sign is basically your flash, or if you are trying to photograph anything, like you pull out your iPhone and you're trying to take a picture, and it is at night, the phone will automatically will try to shoot it with a flash. What you would like to do is you have to click on that yellow lightning sign and you disable the flash. Once you disable the flash, you will get something, as you can see in the second slide. You get something which is with 3 seconds on, depending on which you can get anywhere from 1 second to 10 seconds. That other thing gets highlighted. Basically, is what we call is the shutter speed or the exposure. Basically, how long are you exposing your shot for? In DSLR cameras, we have a different setting for this, but on an iPhone, now if you're hand holding your iPhone, going back again to the basics, if you're moving your arms close to your body, you're stabilizing your phone. I think I am able to manage between 1 to 2 seconds, but anything more than 3 seconds, my hand generally shakes and my photographs are a little bit blurry. In that case, one of the easy trick is put your phone down on a a table or take any support where you put it there, and you let the exposure go for a long time. You can make the exposure from 3 seconds to 10 seconds, and that will give you that night shot. Two things which you can use. Ideally, it is good that you use any support basically from starting from a water glass or a water bottle. You can just lean your cell phone on anything. Now, sometimes if you're lucky and if you have a small tripod, you can put your phone on a tripod. But kind of these events, if you don't have that much space of a tripod, you stick to the basic objects, whatever you have to support your phone. One more cool feature on iWatches are these days that you can go on to there is a camera app on your iWatch. So if you support your phone through any, maybe a water glass, and then you want to go and click the picture. When you're clicking a picture in a low light situation, any movement on the camera or the phone will cause any kind of a blur. So, or any kind of a shake. So what you would like to do is if you have a iPhone or if you have an Android phone, you can click it remotely. Bless you, Shashi. So, so what happens is, so iWatch has you can go into the iWatch, you can go to the camera app, and then you can remote trigger your photographs from an iWatch, and so that you're not touching the phone, and the exposure you can shoot it at 3, 10. This picture you shoot it at 10 and then you get more exposure. So if you see the screen on the left hand side, basically what happens is, I'll go back to the first slide. You see that yellow lightning sign, you tap on it, you disable it. Then what happens is there is a timer which starts on the side. It is not exactly a timer. It is how much long the shutter will be open to take more light in. You can adjust that if you click or if you tap on that 3S, that is 3 seconds. If you click on that, it shows you, now you can see on the bottom where is the shutter or that white round button where you tap to take your picture. You can make it to max 10 seconds on iPhones, or you can increase the seconds of exposure. That gets more light to the camera. But again, the most important thing is your camera should be stable, either through any object which you can find around you or through a tripod, or and if you have an iWatch, then you trigger it with an iWatch or any remote device so that you are introducing as less of a shake as you can. Again, with night photography, tripod, support, or trigger, these are the three important things. iPhone has a very good settings these days. Starting from iPhone 12, I've seen that, and we can go and talk about those settings where you can use the full 48 megapixel cameras on an iPhone, which is technically it's more megapixel than my DSLR camera. So if you have a good support, you can have a good low light or night photography. Kamlesh Chacha and okay, Chacha both have told me about an app which we can share the link. It can help you take longer exposures, but the native camera has a max of 10 seconds of exposure. But if you want to have a longer exposure, you definitely need some kind of a support or a tripod, and then you can have even longer exposures on your iPhone. Um, Candid photography, this is one thing which we are going to have a lot when we are there. So basically, and I love candid pictures personally. So what I look for candid photography is basically frame your subject, adjust the depth of field and rule of third. Now, same thing, the basics. Basically, when you have your camera open, you generally like to get more used to the grid lines, the simple three grid lines. When you have those grid lines, then you can frame the subject. I have a very beautiful model on the screen, so she generally poses for us. So So what we do is again the rule of third. Now, when we were photographing a landscape or kind of architecture, we are looking for symmetry. Now, in a kind of a portrait pictures, the rule of third, how it goes is again those blue dots. You try to place the eyes of your subject on those blue dots. Basically, how it works is by default, when you're looking at a picture, those blue dots are the points where your eyes are more drawn towards. So if you place the eyes of your subject on those blue dots, then it becomes easy for people to, look at those pictures more aesthetically. So framing your subject is one of the key thing on a portrait photography. Most of the phones these days have something called the f-stop or the depth of field. You can go, which is basically simply just what we are doing on our Zoom screen also right now, is blurring the background and focusing more on the subject, or focusing more on the expression of the person. So if they're posing, it is good. Ideally, if they're not posing or they're not looking at you, then it is the best shot that you pull out your phone and then just take a quick snap. Again, when you start using those line of thirds or the rule of three, then it becomes by default you it becomes very easy to see through the frame, because initially when I was using my phone, sometimes it becomes distracting for me, those white lines. But again, we can talk about that, like how do we adjust? In some phones, you can adjust like how darker or how lighter your grid lines are when you are trying to focus it through the screen of your phone. Um, One more thing with portrait photography is the lightings. Now, if you're taking, so this photograph
Anurag,
is, yes,
should we take questions or comments now or at the end?
whatever you suggest, Chacha. If what do you suggest now?
Uh, Maybe we'll take them at the end, unless
Okay.
somebody has a burning question. Could do.
No, I'll write down my question. I have so many questions.
Good. Because we are recording it, and then we'll everybody can see it. So without the
Of course.
question, then the question answer section is separate.
Okay.
Okay.
So with this, so in this, so portrait photography, you can shoot in, you can hold your phone straight, or you can incline it, or you can take it in a portrait or a landscape mode, either or. This was in a portrait mode. This is in a landscape mode. Again, I'm trying to place on here more towards the blue dots, because that the focus should be on your subject. If the background gets blurred, that gives you more artistic or characteristic background. You generally, when I'm shooting portrait, I'm not trying to focus on the background. I'm just trying to add some more lighting effects through the background. If you have different lightings on your while you're taking a portrait shot, it adds more character or more drama to that picture. Like in this picture, you have one side the blue light, and the one side you have more golden light coming in. So again, these are the pictures which I really like. Uh, Portrait photography or candid photography can be where the person is not looking at you, or it can be where the person is looking at you. So focus on the subject, the depth of field, which can be adjusted on most of the cameras these days. In iPhones, you have a portrait mode. And one thing about the portrait mode is you have to have more distance from the subject if you are shooting in a portrait mode, because you have to be a little bit farther if you were using a normal photo mode on your iPhone or on your Android. So plan that, because if it is a crowded situation, then, or if there are people around, then you might not get that blur in the background. Again, these days, post editing, you can separate very easily on a phone itself your background and the subject. Focusing on the subject is more important. I generally try to focus on the eyes. I would like to see as much clear eyes as I can. And sometimes what happens is I was lucky with this shot that I don't have any light effect on the glasses, but generally when we're wearing glasses or any kind, there is some kind of a reflection on the glasses. So try to move your camera so that the light reflection on anybody's glasses or reading glasses can be avoided, so that you can see more of the eyes clearly. These are my friends from Connecticut. I couldn't find group photographs too much, But group photography is a little bit more, I feel it is a little bit more tricky. But I have few simple things for group photography which I follow. The few basic points comes from the portrait or the candid photography, and then few comes from the group, few comes from the depth of field. With group photography, I generally suggest people to shoot fast. Like if you have a bunch of people posing in front of you, don't try to frame and then go very slow. You can go slow with the portrait. You can instruct one person very easily. Whereas in a group, generally people start getting tired. So some are smiling, some are closing their eyes, some are moving. So try to shoot a little bit fast. Choose simple backgrounds because when you're taking a group photographs, mainly people are focusing on the whole group. The background becomes less interesting and the main people becomes more interesting. Whereas if you see this picture, I was not focused, the background is more white out. And this picture, the background does add some kind of a character to the person face and the lighting. Whereas in a group picture, it's less about the lighting coming from the background. It's more about the lighting coming from the front. This shot, no, my friend here, she graduated and she got a degree, and she opened the envelope and she opened that degree and there was no degree in the envelope. I was fortunate enough to click that picture. So sometimes when you're taking group pictures, there will be those fun moments where you can capture them. So again, fast shooting, the background blur, your background when you're taking group pictures, if you're using a DSLR camera or if you're using an iPhone or any kind of Android phone, and we'll talk about that, that the f-stop, generally an f-stop should be anywhere between, I would recommend anywhere from 2 to 4. Don't go too lower than 1.8, because what happens is sometimes the people who are behind, they get blurred out. And then, so when you're shooting group, ideally, all of them should be standing in one line or one plane. Because if your people are front and back, what happens is the person who is a little bit behind will get blurred out. The person who is a little bit in front will get more focused in. In this picture, and the main focus was the person in the center. But if you see, the gentleman on her left side is also in focus, but the lady in the right side, her face is starting to get more out of focus. So when you're taking a group picture, make sure everybody is in one line. Ask them to smile, pose, take couple of pictures, because here's what happens with most of the group pictures in my experience. One of the person will always close their eye. So it's very difficult to have pictures where everybody is opening their eye or smiling, or something is going like somebody is either closing their eye or making a funny face, they're not smiling. So and then the whole group picture. So that's why I take 2 or 3 pictures, be fast, plan your lighting ahead. One of the good things about group picture is when, because it's a group and everybody is asking you, oh, you are the photographer, you're taking a picture, where should we stand or where we should not stand, where is the lighting. What I have experienced is the easy way is, if your light source is like if the light is falling on them, so the light source should not be behind them. If the light source is behind them, then your picture will become more dark, people will appear more dark, you will not have that good of a focus. If the light source is falling on the faces or behind you as a photographer, then you will get a pretty nice image. So your background should not be very well or overly exposed. And again, in a group picture, you are not looking for the background much. What you're looking for is a group. So if the background is blurred, that is totally fine. This is something which is a shortcut. Now, let me explain this, because this gets a little complicated, but it can be easily done. We will be taking a lot of pictures on our iPhones and stuff like that. Mukesh Chacha, Anuja Chachi, Kamlesh Chacha, they will go over the photo competition and the rules and regulations of that. This is one thing which I want to try if we can do it. So there, on iPhones, there's something called a shortcut, and I'll tell you how to make that if anybody is interested. There are two files which I created for the watermark, which is, if you can see right here, this watermark, which is Aditya and Kartikeya. So this watermark is a PNG file. What is that? That is basically a transparent file which can go over on any photograph. I have made two files, one in white, one in black. Colors and everything can be changed if anybody wants. What I want is with this last slide of shortcut is basically what you can do is if you see the middle screenshot of the iPhone, you have something called watermark. Once you have this watermark, and I will try to mirror my phone, all you have to do is you have to select the watermark and you have to select how many pictures you have to put it on, and rest the iPhone does everything for you. You can scale it big, you can scale it short, you can rotate it. I'll try to show you through. I'll connect my phone to the and then I will show it through a phone how it is done or how it is made. If we want to make it, we can make it now or we can make it later on. But there are four sets, one, two, three, four, five sets of commands which goes on the shortcut, and the watermark which goes on the. So I will show you how it is done, and then if anybody is interested, I'll go over it. I'll share the PNG file. So any pictures which you're taking on the event, if you like to add the watermark, it is automated. You can add the watermark by clicking on this watermark and then send it so that we have a nice memory that this picture is taken in Jaibagh or during Aditya and Kartikeya's wedding. So that is the basic gist of it. Thank you for listening. And please, any questions?
Okay, thank you very much, Anurag. Can you stop sharing the screen so that we can see the faces of everybody?
Yes.
And